Dobre utro.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. This is really an initial paper that was presented to me. It's an update. It's a continuous update. Status of mapping in the world. Something that ISPRS has done, as President Chen Jin has mentioned. I would just like to add that the reason we are here, this is my 8th conference, Dr. Adroff, and we have grown together like an international family. And as far as that's concerned, the world is always in troubles, but it's not in troubles in our own society. And I wish it will be so that way, because the problems that we have in the world are temporary. And we are working, therefore, within the United Nations. And there's a project in the United Nations. We have been trying to find out what is the status of mapping. Everybody knows we have maps, but there's no statistics available. And there have been studies done earlier in the 60s and 70s, and it stopped in 1980. Now everything has been sort of left unknown since about 1980. So when UNGGIM was founded, right now ISPRS said we will try to do something about it. And the last studies that we had published in 1986 were that you can pretty well say the world was mapped at the scale 1 to 25,000 to 1/3, and 1 to 50,000 to 1/2. And of course, everything else, the complete mapping in 250,000 is something like atlas cartography. We don't have to worry about that, but it's the larger scales which are important for the resource management. What was found out at that particular time is that the world age average of the maps 1 to 25,000 was 20 years. So it's old data, historical data, and for the 1 to 50,000 in the world, particularly Africa and Latin America, it was around 45 years. So this is historical map data at these scales. So we said right now we have new technology. Red Course is one of the pushing companies, pushing this technology together with the others that are here represented. And right now we simply say the status must be quite different. So we, throughout the United Nations, we went ahead and drafted a questionnaire characterizing that. And in the meantime, we have received continuing 109 countries have officially answered. This is not 193, which is the total of the United Nations, but nevertheless, those are the countries that have been 109 today. The map does not include Saudi Arabia, which came in just last week. And, but you can see it's substantial. Now, from the point of view, we have been trying to analyze this. The reason why some of the mapping organizations have not answered, because some of them said that secret information, and there are certain countries that don't give you this information. And maybe in some African countries right now, there's also not enough professional competence to answer all these questions. So anyway, the question is, what have we asked? Not only what is the national coverage of the maps at these scales, then what is the age of the data, then we also wanted to know the infrastructure. Are the maps freely available? Can everybody get them? Or can they be sold? Is there a price connected with it? What is the methodology of updating with the new technology? Do you use aerial imagery or do you use satellites? Of course, as far as maps are concerned, they're very often substituted by imagery, orthophotos. If you have sufficient orthophoto imagery, maybe the mapping is not as significant as it used to be in the past. Then is the mapping done in-house or is it done by outsourcing? Are modern technologies being used? Is there an interest in 3D products? is there national cadastral coverage, or are these web reproduced over the internet? So this is the answer to some of the questions. Question one, we still have a lot to do in the blue ones, where the official mapping agencies did not get the full coverage, but you can see 25,000 mapping, and you can see the 50,000 mapping. All these slides are going to be available, so you can study them later in detail. When you come to countries right now that have not reported, you can go to one company. It's essentially also a US-Russian combined effort. The company Eastview in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they have a number of Russian employees. And I understand even in Moscow there is an Eastview company, and they collect information that otherwise is not available. And we have obtained, I was in Minneapolis, and we have a cooperation. In our final report, this will be included together with the official data. And it just simply shows the countries at the various scales that you have there. Also, it shows from the Eastview database the coverages, what the percentage is available over there. And then from the official reports, there is a question also of the 100,000. And for example, the second question, how old are these maps? And this is done in graphics. And then the various questions. What are the map restrictions? You can see that the West is fairly free. In the East, the restrictions are there for whatever reason. We are not asking for the reasons, but nevertheless, you can see free of charge is the United States and Brazil, but in Europe, we have managed this year to make sure that with Geo in Geneva, this will be put on a website. They will maintain it for public use, so everybody can address it. This information, it can be expanded for you in GGIM. For example, this is a question of the 50,000. Then, in that case, the existence of a cadastral covered map, and then the statistical data. What's interesting is that some countries simply say, in the US, you have every 3 years a scheme for the updating of the US topographic map. They are doing, for example, the eastern portion of the digital elevation model updating by laser scanning. It's also, or the Alaskan areas, for example, are being done by radar. On the web, some of the countries are the Czech Republic. They even have the cadastre on the web. You can just simply go to the individual parcel level. Or some of the countries like Latvia, you have very detailed topographic maps. What are the other sources to obtain mapping status? So if the official government doesn't provide it, you can go either to the international map vendors like Eastview, or you can go for map substitutes, Google, Microsoft, Scanex, Yandex, TomTom here, or you can go to the military agencies. Now, it is not our task within the United Nations to simply find that out. We will never get the information, but nevertheless to get an overview. We have tried in our report to include that. These are the map vendors. For example, in Eastview, it's very easy to get maps of North Korea. Otherwise, you could not get them as a private individual. But over there, you can buy it. Then, of course, I was always impressed by the Russian coverage of Digital Globe that is there. Scanex initiated that. In the West, one of the major competitors to governments is, of course, Google. And it's very difficult to get information from Google. But there are separate projects. So you have Google Maps, everybody knows that. In the West, in China, you have your own. But nevertheless, the question is they also have a program which is ground truth. There has always been a sort of a reservation to say Google Maps is not accurate enough as far as mapping is concerned. They're trying to make it accurate through Google Ground Truth. This is a technology that is mainly based on Street View. They will update, and they present it for several countries. And this is a coverage where they're doing this. Everybody knows Street View. So there's some details, where is Ground Truth, what they're doing. These are the countries. So in the time period for the last 4 years, how does it work? You buy authoritative data, then you have internal data from trucks, and you have algorithms in order to do that. And this is a result of the updating tools of the software that you're having there. So mainly going on features on maps and things like that, and even traffic poles and various other things. And you can translate that to Apple systems, to the maps, to Android. So there's some examples that even go inside the buildings, for example, San Francisco Airport. And they hope to have other users. Okay, these are the coverages of Google Maps, for example. And there are similar developments going on, for example, at Yandex, where you have derivation of city maps from satellite images, from digital globe images. And the advantage of the procedure is that you can very easily get a global coverage from digital globe. Microsoft had a program that has more or less been completed in the United States and Western Europe, and now they're only concentrating on cities. They do that with the Ultracam. We should not forget the feature-oriented mapping for here, only for the, and in, as you can see, 196 countries, the mapping is going on for, and same for 118 countries for TomTom. This most recent TomTom coverage. We should not forget the military mapping. NATO has an MGCP program where all these countries are mapping in trouble areas of the world. If you go to the United Nations Cartographic Division, you can see the results. And this is the layout. That's as much as you can get, not the details. And sometimes you have maps from regional bodies. So UN needs this information. The member countries can help in order to get it. ISPRS can have an objective view. We'll try with private industry in order to get as much as possible. Your community has already helped quite a great deal. It was not easy to get Russian data, but nevertheless we are very thankful that we got it in the name of the United Nations. And we hope to make this information sustainable for our future. Thank you very much.